Hey guys, what's up? This is Terpichu and I hope you guys are doing okay and welcome to the video. In this video I'll just be covering over essential things that you should already know by now in Roblox scripting. However, I felt like that I should cover everything in a singular video instead of just, randomly having to, just teach you guys it in multiple different videos. So yeah, it's just going to be nice and organized in this one video and it should be just important things that you should know by now. So I'm just gonna go over FindFirstChild, WaitForChild, and then after that I'm just gonna go over PlayerAdded and PlayerRemoving events. Then after that I'm gonna go over some key instance methods that you should know by now and some important properties that you should know. But yeah, so this should just be relatively quite straightforward. You don't really have to watch it if you already know what these are. But yeah, so I forgot to mention the key methods that we're gonna go over. It's just gonna be destroy, clone, and get children and get descendants. So yeah, so hopefully this video shouldn't be too long, and yeah, so by no means you have to watch this video, but I think it's gonna be needed for our next video that I'm gonna be making. So I'll just be saving and loading data using data stores. But yeah, you'll find out more about that in the next video. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. So the first method is that I'm going to teach you is going to be called FindFirstChild. So basically what you do is it's pretty much just in the name. You just basically underneath a folder or a service or whatever, so let's say in workspace, FindFirstChild just basically means it looks for the first direct child that is the name of whatever you gave it inside that method. And then it'll basically look for that child underneath the workspace or a folder or whatever you specified. And if it doesn't find it, it will basically return a value called nil. And you've probably seen it in the previous videos, but nil basically just means null. And a null just essentially means that it just doesn't exist, and it's not an object. It's basically nothing. It just doesn't exist. So yeah, so I'm just gonna show you this in scripting terms. So first of all, I'm gonna create a part, and then we're just gonna name it. We're gonna name it a gray part. And then in service script service, I'm going to create a script that basically will assign gray part into a variable. So here I'm going to do local gray part equals game dot workspace find first child gray part. And essentially what this does is it just assigns gray part to a variable, and then it's going to go into game.workspace, and then it's going to find the first direct child. Remember that. So direct means it literally has to be straight underneath the workspace. It can't be underneath another object such as decol. So if I was to do FindFirstChild decol, it'll return nil because it means it doesn't exist underneath workspace. However, since I'm doing gray part and the parent is a good indicator that it's a direct child of the object that you're looking in. So for example here, the parent is workspace, so it's a direct child basically. And yeah, so it's just gonna look for that, look for the first child that is named gray part. And if it doesn't find it, it'll basically return nil. But in this instance, it should return with the part. Basically, with that part, we can then do whatever we want to do, just like if we just referenced it like normally, so like gray part. But yeah, so the key thing between using this, so FindFirstChild and then just accessing it directly like that, is the fact that if we do it like this, and we're doing it on a part or an object or anything that we're unsure will exist at the time, we can simply use FindFirstChild, because unlike FindFirstChild, this will give an error if it doesn't find it. So yeah, so FindFirstChild will just, if it doesn't give an error, it'll just set it to no. And then basically, if we wanted to see if it exists, we just can do an if statement that does if gray part does not, no, it's the opposite. So if gray part equals nil, then that means it doesn't exist, like this. So if gray part equals nil, then print gray part doesn't exist. So this is one way of doing this sort of code. But we can also, wait, I'll show you how you can also check if it does exist. So you can just do the opposite. So if gray part does not equal nil, then print gray. So I don't know what's up with my typing today. But yeah, so this is how we would check if it doesn't exist, and this is how we would check if it does exist. If we want it to be simpler, we can just simply do this instead. If not a gray part, then that means it doesn't exist. So if it's not true, because essentially if it does find the object, it's, I don't know why, but in an if condition, it basically just means it's true. So this would mean if gray part, so if it does exist, print that it does exist. However, obviously the opposite of that would be not, so we can just do if not gray part, that means it doesn't exist because it's set to nil. I'm not too sure why it's set to true, but yeah. This is how I usually do my code nowadays. Beforehand, I didn't really know about it when I first started coding. So yeah, I'd rather do it like this. It's simpler, but it's up to you really. But yeah, so if I were to press play, this is just gonna print out, if I switch on my output, it's gonna print out that it does exist. However, if I do delete, you can see that now it doesn't exist. It's nowhere in the workspace. You can't see it anywhere. So that is how you use FindFirstChild. And then instances of when we can use this is literally, as I said before, if you want to find an object that you don't know is going to be existing or not at the time of the script, you can just do FindFirstChild. Or if you, yeah, that's what I would say. And then there's the other counterpart, which is called WaitForChild. So I'm just going to remove that. Instead of doing FindFirstChild, we can do WaitForChild. And once again, as the name insists, it's similar to FindFirstChild. However, it's gonna wait for a child named Graypart. And when it says wait, it doesn't mean that it's just gonna, you know, find it once and then if it's not there, it'll set it to nil. It's gonna, I think it should yield at that line. So basically, it just pauses the entire script at this line. I think for around 10 seconds, trying to wait for the, you know, the child to show up. And then I think after 10 seconds, it will give like a timeout message, I think, of saying, oh, I can't find it. But yeah, so WaitForChild is a really useful method that you should know of. I don't think I did it in my previous videos, I'm not sure. But it's very useful and you should know it. And basically the difference is you should only use this if you know that this part should exist within game.workspace eventually. You shouldn't really use it if you don't know for sure that the part will be in workspace, because otherwise it's just going to pause the entire script for no reason and it potentially won't even find it because it's not even supposed to be there in the first place. So yeah, so let's say I had a part where well, I'm going to create a part quickly. So instance.new create part, no, I'm going to do part. So this is something else that I did want to teach you. I'm just going to do it now. So instance.new is pretty much just how you create an object. Any object that we can add in this plus can be created in instance.new. And then if we wanted to assign it a parent directly, we can just do comma, and we just set the folder that we want it to be parented to. So here I can do game.workspace, and then I don't have to do part.parent equals game.workspace anymore, because it's already included here. But yeah, it depends on what you really want to do. I'm just going to remove it. Just going to leave it as parent. Makes the code more straightforward, I guess, to read. And then I'm just going to name this name equals gray parts. Actually, I'm going to create this in another script so they can both run at the same time. So I'm just going to make it so we do task.wait and then do 3 seconds. Basically, this means the script will wait 3 seconds and then it'll execute everything below it. And then in this other script, I'm just going to make it so gray part will wait for the gray part to appear, and then if gray part, then print gray part exists. Else, if it doesn't exist, gray part does not exist. So if we press play, we're going to wait 3 seconds for the part to spawn in. It's now spawned in. Obviously we can't see it, but it says gray part exists now. And if we were to just do FindFirstChild, it would have obviously looked for the child, seen that it's not there, and then it just would have printed does not exist straight away. But I'll just show it to you. You can see here, it tries to look for it straight away, it doesn't bother waiting for it. So yeah, those are the two different methods that I think you should definitely know. There's obviously a lot of use case for this, so we can look for a certain thing in a character, for example. Let's say, I think I did it before in a previous video. I had a kill part, so like a lava part that would kill anyone that would touch it. And basically what would happen is when you do the touch event, the touch event will see that if a child called humanoid exists in the parent, so in the character model, and if it does exist, then that means it's, you know, an actual character, and we can set that humanoid's health to 0. That's one way of using FindFirstChild. Yeah, so I think I might just, I might as well just show it to you now. So I'm just going to leave this anchored because I don't want it to move. And then I'm just going to set this to red, just like any other, lava brick. And then, yeah, this is going to be really straightforward. So script.parent.touched, which is, an event where it occurs only if if something touches it. And then we put in a part and then touched part. And then what we can do here is local humanoid equals touched part.parent FindFirstChild humanoid. So I'm just going to print out the touch part name so we know what the touch part actually is. It's most likely going to be our leg, but we'll see. And then we can do here, if humanoid does not equal nil, then print this is a character. This is a player's character. And then we can just set humanoid.health to 0. So that's literally as easy as that. We've created a kill part, and if I were to go on it, I would die, and you can see that it's now putting in part names of every time that it was touched, basically. And you can see that this is the player's character. It's being printed out. So that's one way of using FindFirstChild, and there's many other ways that you will definitely come across in your scripting career on Roblox. Yeah, so that's FindFirstChild for you. And yeah. So just to recap, FindFirstChild will just look for the first child. If it's not there, it'll set it to nil, the variable, and then WaitForChild will literally wait the entire script, pause it until that child, appears, or it'll give out a timeout message in the output. And then after that, I just want to go through some simple concepts. So let me just delete all this, and then I'm going to create a new script. So by now, you should probably know what the PlayerAdded event is, but I'll just show it to you because this is going to be needed in our next video. So what I'm going to do here is game. You can do get service and then players. So people have started saying that in the TikTok comments. So I'm just going to show it to you because this is kind of proper practice, not gonna lie. So yeah, so game get service players, and then we're going to do PlayerAdded connect function, and then we're going to put in our new variable of the player that's joining. This doesn't have to be new player, this can be literally anything. And then after that, we can manipulate this new player to whatever we want. So we can add in, like, we can maybe print out a welcome message in the output with its name, or we can maybe, load some data in here, or we can initialize a character's like health to be 1,000 instead of 100. There's many different things that we can do here in the PlayerAdded event. Here I'm just going to do a nice welcome message. So new player.name ... So this means it'll join the two strings together, has joined the game. And then similarly, if we just do game get service players, then we do player removing. This just basically means if a player is leaving the game. So this is once again going to be needed in our next tutorial. And then let me just remove that bracket. And then basically player removing, yeah, so it just means a player is leaving the game. And this is where we would usually just save the data, or let's say you have like a game where a player can't leave during mid-combat, you can set that up in this little block here. But for now, we're just going to do leaving player.name is leaving the game. And now this is literally how you set up your PlayerAdded event and your player removing event. If I press play, you're gonna get your Terpentry has joined the game, or whatever person's name has joined the game. And then if I leave the game by just pressing stop here, you can see that Terpentry is now leaving the game. So yeah, so that's just a brief overview of a PlayerAdded and PlayerRemoving. These are two important things that you should know, and every game will definitely use this in the script. So yeah, so after this, I want to teach you everything about instances. Okay, not everything, but the essential things that you need to know about instances. So obviously, I'm going to go over properties for now. So I'm just going to create a part here. And then, yeah, I'm just going to go over the things that we should know by now. So firstly is the name. So obviously this is just the name of the object. I'm just gonna call this, once again, a gray part. And then the parent obviously is just what it's being parented to, basically. So here it's being parented to workspace. If I obviously change this to a folder, for example, I'm gonna change this parts, and if I put gray part in there, you can see that the parent has now changed to parts. So this is something that you'll definitely be using in your scripting. There's going to be something called a class name. So a class name is basically just the object type. That's what I like to think of it. As you can see here, it says it's read only. We can't change it. If you change the name of the part, obviously it's not going to change the class name. And basically, if you just want to confirm if an object is a certain object such as a part, you can basically compare the class name basically in an if statement. Yeah, so like if I went on spawn location, you can see class name is spawn location. Or if I went to workspace, is there a class name for it? Workspace for it as well. But yeah, so that's just that's what class name is. So that's something that you should know. And then for part specifically, we're gonna have anchored. So anchored just means if the part is anchored or not, and that basically means if it's going to be affected by gravity or other forces, such as a player, trying to push it and stuff. If it's anchored, that means it won't be affected. If it's unanchored, it's going to fall down from the air if it's in the air. Let me just move it up into the air. So if it was unanchored, it would fall straight down, and it could be pushed around by players and other objects. And we're going to have the collision, so we're going to have can collide. Can collide means that everything can collide with it. If we select defaults, that means nobody can collide with it. We're gonna just go straight through it. And then there's these additional settings as well. So can touch, I assume just fires off the touch event basically. If you don't want that, you can just set it to disabled, and I think it's just minor optimizations. I don't know if it's too necessary. Maybe it is. Maybe somebody can correct me in the comments. But yeah. Personally, I don't really bother too much with can touch. The important one would be can collide and anchored. And then collision groups is something else, but it's a bit advanced, so I'm not going to teach you it now in this video. It's not really that needed at the moment. And then other specific ones would be brick color, and then material, and car shadows. There's just other properties, but the main properties that you should know of is a name, a parent, and a class name. Archivable just basically means if you can copy it. So if this is false, that means you can't clone it, which is just a method that I'm going to teach you later on in the video. Most of the time this is set to true. However, if I were to press play, you can see inside the player's model that it's archivable is set to false. So that means I can't clone it unless I set this to true. And then another important one would be locked. It doesn't really matter that much if you're scripting. It's more like if you're building. So you can see at the moment I can't really, highlight it or click on it unless locked is off, and then I can do whatever I want again. But yeah, those are all the key properties that you should know of. There's size and there's C-frame and positioning as well, but I'm gonna work on another video for that. But yeah, so aside from that, now I'm just gonna move on to the important methods that you should know of for instances. So one was instance.new, which I've already showed you. So local part equals instance.new part. And yeah, as I explained before, it just basically creates a new part, and all you have to do is just provide a class name in it, which I've shown you before. And basically, if you click on plus, all these objects, you can basically create it by just putting the name in here. And make sure that it's assigned to a variable, of course, otherwise you won't be able to refer to it and change its name and positioning and other stuff. But yeah, so what I want to show you for now is, let's say I wanted to destroy an object. What you can do here is, first of all, you need to get the object. So what I'm going to do is game.workspace parts, not parent, parts, and then integrate part, and then destroy. So this is just a method, so just do a colon, similar to FindFirstChild and WaitForChild. If it's a method, we just put a colon basically. But I put in the name of the method, which is destroy, and then just brackets. We don't need to provide anything. And this just basically just destroys it, removes it from the game basically. So if we press play, you can see that it's now no longer in the workspace. If I open it, parts has nothing underneath it. Yeah, so that's how you would destroy and remove an object from the game. If you're watching a very classic video or reading classic scripts, you can see sometimes it might do .parent equals nil. Not sure if you've seen it before, but that's another way of destroying objects. However, I highly recommend that you don't do this. I say definitely stick to doing destroy rather than that method. But yeah, so that's how we destroy an object. If we wanted to clone an object, it's something similar. Instead of destroy, we do clone. However, importantly is we have to refer it to a variable. So I'm going to do cloned part equals this. And basically what this does is it's going to clone the grey part and then it's going to set the variable to cloned part. But what's important is that it has no parent whatsoever. So even if we run this, it won't be anywhere to be seen. So we have to do clone part.parent equals game.workspace.parts. I'm just going to leave it there, or I could just do game.workspace, doesn't really matter. And then I'm just going to set the brick color to be brick color.new, and then I'm just going to type down redirect. And now if I press play, we should now have well, we've got two parts now, but you can see that they're in the same positions, because when we clone it, it's just going to copy literally all its properties, so it's not going to really change. I'm going to change the name here, so clone part name equals cloned part, so that we know that it's actually a clone. And then if we wanted to make it be up by a certain amount of studs, we just basically do dot position equals vector3 dot new. No, not like that. You can do cloned part dot position. So this makes it so it's equal to the original position of the part, and then we do plus. And then whenever we're referring to a position, we have to do something called vector3. So that's just the data type in Roblox that represents a position. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add in an extra stud into the y-axis. So we're going to do here vector3.new, and then the format is x, y, z. And then in these positions, we just put in an integer or a float that represents, you know, each of those axes. So we only care about y because we just want it to be up by 1. So I'm just going to do 0, 1, 0. So x is 0, y is 1, and z is 0. Now if we were to press play, you can see now that it just goes up because it goes up by a stud. And if I wanted it to be higher, I could do 2 or 3. If I wanted it to be negative, I can make it do minus, you know, the y-axis, so I can do minus here. Doesn't really matter. And then if you want it to be even more simpler and keep it simple, I mean, you just literally remove this part, you could do plus equals, and that just basically means we're going to add on to vector3 upon the position, and it still work just like that. But yeah, so that's how you would clone a part. And then there's only two more key methods that we should know of for instances. The one is getting the children, so I've probably shown you it in a previous video, so I'm going to do here workspace children equals game.workspace, and we're going to do, since it's a method once again, we're going to do colon, and then we're going to do get children, and that's all we need. So this basically returns all the childs that are underneath workspace. It has to be, that basically means a parent has to equal workspace. So for example, if it's inside a folder or in another part, like grey part, you can see if we go into parent, it says parts, not workspace. So when in this list, this will not be a part of it. And then basically, let's say we wanted to go through all the children and just print out the names. What we can do here is just a simple for loop that I've taught you before in the loops tutorial. I think it's, you know, earlier in the scripting guide. Simply just do for, and then you can do I, and then v is just a default name, but I'm just going to leave this as child in I pairs. And then we're going to do here workspace children, and then close the brackets, and then we're going to do then enter, and then we're just going to do here print child name. And if I press play, you can see it just prints out all the parts that are underneath the workspace, which is that. And then yeah, so here we're not going to use our I, so I just means an iteration or index. Yeah, so we're not going to use it, and a common practice is just to set it as underscore. That just means we're not using it, basically. You can do the same with the second one, so child, we can leave it as that if you don't need it. But yeah, that's just a common practice that you should know of. And child doesn't have to be child, we can set this to anything, we can set it to v, we can literally set it to any name that we want. It's just think of it as just another variable that we can use, basically. So yeah, that's what get children does. We don't have to use a variable, we can literally use it directly if we wanted it to, like this. That's pretty common to do, and as you can see here, it still runs the same script. But yeah, and then the last one is get descendants. So we're gonna do here get descendants The get descendants basically means that it's going to return all the descendants of workspace, which is different to get children. So anything that is underneath the workspace, so even gray part, or if you go into spawn location decal, is part of workspace. Anything that's basically underneath workspace will be printed out. It's as simple as that. Yeah, so that's what get descendants does. If we were to press play, you can see it now prints out a lot more. Now it prints out 3, 6, it prints out 8 objects now instead of, previously I think it was 5. But yeah, so I think those two are some important things that you need to know, methods that you should know now. And yeah, we'll definitely be using it in the future in some later videos, or you might use it in your projects. But if you didn't know what it was before, now you know how it works. So aside from that, I think that's basically it. But yeah, there's one thing I didn't show you, but it's something to do with FindFirstChild. So local gray part equals game.workspace FindFirstChild gray part. If I were to just run this now, it's going to return nil because gray part, it does not exist underneath workspace, right? This is how it's going to see it. You don't see gray part. Gray part's actually underneath parts. So let's say we wanted it to find the first descendant. So it wants to find the first object that's underneath workspace. Doesn't matter if it's a direct parent or child, I mean. We can basically just we can do comma and we can do true, and this basically means it's going to search for it recursively. So that means if it comes across an object that has more children, it'll check that, and if those children has more children underneath them, it'll check through that until it basically looks through everything. That's basically if we wanted to look for it recursively. So yeah, think of this as find first descendant. I don't think you really need it, but it's something that's good to know. Most of the time, if you just know the location, it should be good enough just to do it like this, for example. But yeah, that's the one last thing that I forgot to mention. But that's basically everything that I wanted to teach you for this video. It's pretty much stuff that you've probably, came across in my previous videos. I think the only thing I haven't taught you was cloned and destroy and get descendants, but everything else you should have came across them. But yeah, if you didn't know it, now you know what they all do, and now I feel more confident that I can talk about these terms and different methods more confidently, knowing that you guys now know what it is now because of this video. If you ever forget what they are, you just simply go back on this video and look at the look at that specific area of the video. But yeah, so upcoming next in the next video will be data stores, hopefully, unless I change my mind. I don't think so. But basically, data stores is a service that we can use to save and load players' data, and it's basically essential and is used in pretty much every game that has these sort of mechanics of saving and loading data. So yeah, so you'll learn more about that in the next video. But I think after the video after that, I'm gonna teach you about positioning and sizing, basically, of manipulating the position and size of a part. It's pretty straightforward. But I'll have to see. But yeah, I think definitely the next video will be on saving and loading players' data. But if you have any other suggestions about videos or anything I can improve about the videos, be sure to just write it down in the comments below. But I hope you have enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like if you did. It shows lots of support and, means that I'm doing good. But yeah, so leave a like if you enjoy it. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. So hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in the next video.